Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sahla wa anta ya hayyu ya qayyum taj'alul hazna in shi'ta sahla Allahumma arzuqna al-ikhlasa fil qawli wal amal lillahi ta'ala. So last time we were talking about some people have a wrong saying. They said if 99 scholars said something is kufr and one scholar said it is not kufr.
If 99 said it's not kufr and one said it's kufr?
No, they said if 99 scholars said something was kufr and one of them said it's not kufr, then you take according to the one. According to them, you take according to the minority. And it's not a matter of minority or majority. It's an issue pertaining to what is the truth. So if 10 scholars give you some proofs, and all of these 10 scholars based it on the Quran and the Sunnah, and the proofs, the religious proofs, and they say the truth, and one person comes along and two persons come along and they say, no, we have another opinion. They go against the religious proofs. We don't say, okay, let's go according to them because there's one or two. Or if there was even more. So it has nothing to do with the number. It goes according to what is right. Not just that. Even if a scholar committed a mistake and came up with a saying that does not comply with the religious rules, do we follow the scholar in that? No. A scholar, is he a prophet? No. So a scholar can make a mistake. We do not follow a scholar if he makes a mistake in that. Because no one is free from mistakes except for prophets, alayhim as-salatu was-salam. So we don't leave the religion or the religious rules, even if a scholar makes a mistake. What about the lay people nowadays? If this is the case regarding a scholar, or even a wali, then certainly we don't do it for people that are not of their status. You follow the truth. So their statement is very silly. Do you know why they said that? This is because they did not put effort to acquire the religious rules from anyone. They didn't do it in the proper way. They started acting like they're scholars. And they taught the people whatever they wanted. They made mistakes. People would come to them. They say, you made a mistake. You contradicted this verse. You contradicted this hadith. This is not like that. And so they came up with this statement in order to give themselves wiggling room to get out of it, so that no one can say anything to them, to make it easy for themselves. Not even one reliable scholar said that statement about what they said about the 99 scholars. The top scholars of the religion said sometimes making ta'wil, inferring another meaning with the word that does not bear that meaning, for example, it only bears one blasphemous meaning, then in this case ta'wil does not benefit the person. It does not protect the person from falling into kufr. They said it is not permissible to judge this person as a Muslim. Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, the top student of Abu Hanifa, he has a similar statement. He was a mujtahid mutlaq. Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani, he was the top scholar of student of Abu Hanifa. He was his sahib and he reached his level. So Abu Hanifa, Imam Muhammad and Imam Abu Yusuf, these three imams, usually they're quoted when a Hanafi starts to learn about the Hanafi. They say, the Imam said that, his two companions said this. Sometimes they would have, all of them have different sayings. Some of them two would agree with the other. The two companions would agree with each other. The Imam would say something else. It's like that in the Hanafi school. So this great Imam, Mujtahid, who was at the level of Abu Hanifa, the student of Abu Hanifa in knowledge, he has a similar statement about this issue. That you cannot, something that does not bear in the language, bear another meaning, you just don't say, well, I give it another meaning. We talked about that several times. And we mentioned that you don't accept that for yourself. If you said, somebody degrades you, and then you say, why did you degrade me? He said, oh, I meant by it something else. And the language doesn't accept that. You say, no, that doesn't mean what you just said. So he's playing with you. So likewise in the religion, it's not accepted from them. If it doesn't bear that meaning in the language, then you cannot just make up a meaning for it. So, for example, Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, he stated, if the statement bears in the language more than one meaning, and one tells another, pray, and he means by it, pray the obligatory prayer, and another person said, I won't pray. Sheikh Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, he said, if he meant by that, I won't pray because I already prayed. So he said, his statement was, I won't pray. One person tells him, pray. He said, I won't pray. If he meant by that, I already prayed, so I won't pray because this prayer is already done. Of course, he would not be committing blasphemy by that. If he meant by that, I am lazy. That's why I don't pray. Because I'm a lazy person. I accept that prayer is an obligation on me. But I'm a lazy person, that's why I don't pray. Then this person does not commit blasphemy either. But if he means by that, because you're telling me to pray, I won't pray, this also is not blasphemy. So he says, pray. He says, I won't pray. The reason is because you're telling me. He wants to go against him for one reason or another. This is also not blasphemy. But if he says, I won't pray, because prayer does not have a high status, it doesn't, prayer, according to him, prayer doesn't mean anything to me. In this case, he would blaspheme. Degrading the prayer is blasphemy. So this is an example of what Muhammad ibn al-Hasan said in Fatawa al-Hindiyya about a statement that can bear more than one meaning. He gave another example. If the one who said to another, don't you fear Allah? And to that he replied, no. If he meant, for example, he didn't commit any sins, and a person told him, don't you fear Allah? He's thinking that I didn't commit any sin. For example, he's talking about that day, and he's saying, I didn't commit any sins, so that's why he says no, meaning I didn't do anything so that I would deserve the punishment. In that case, he wouldn't fall into blasphemy. But if he is committing sins, he's sinful, and he says, no, I'm not afraid of the punishment of Allah, while he's committing sins, this is a different case. In that case, he said he blasphemes. So if he says, no, I don't fear Allah, and he said, if he means by that, I'm not worried, I'm not afraid of the punishment of Allah, although he's committing sins, then in this case, he blasphemes. Because Imam Muhammad said, there is no way to do ta'wil for this statement. He said, there's no way to do ta'wil for this statement, therefore he commits blasphemy, waliyadhu billah. So he said that's an explicit blasphemous statement. Subhanallah. May Allah protect us from blasphemy. So the scholars did not deal with these matters according to the majority or minority, but rather they dealt with it according to the aforementioned rule. What does the statement mean in the language? Does it bear more than one meaning? And among those meanings, if it bears several meanings, are one of those meanings blasphemous? If it had more than one meaning, what did the person intend? So it had several meanings, and one of those was blasphemy. But did this person intend the blasphemous meaning? Or he didn't? And then you go according to the person's intention. And we said as before, you don't know the person's intention. How do you know what's in a person's heart? Unless he mentions it. So if he mentions that, yes, this is what I meant, then the person would know. If he said a statement that has several meanings, and one of them was blasphemous, one was not, and he said to you which one he meant, then we could make a judgment on him, and he could judge himself. If he said a statement, he knows other people don't know what he meant, but he knows what he meant. So he'll know, in this case, what did I do? How do I judge myself? It's important to know, to judge yourself. So a man asked Imam Ali radiyallahu anhu wa ardah. He said, do you think I'm going to listen, that I will say that Talha and Zubayr is wrong? Just a little background history. Talha and Zubayr, they went to the area of Basra in Iraq. And they went to that area because some people were saying, we need to find the killers of Uthman. Because the killers of Uthman was not found. No one knew who it was. So some people started to say, we need to find the killers of Uthman, we need to bring him to justice, we need to do this and we need to do that. As if they were implying that the Caliph Ali radiallahu anhu is not doing it. So why do you need to go and demonstrate and have people gather? It's as if they're saying the government, which Ali radiallahu anhu was the Caliph at that time, as if they were saying he's not doing it. And we need to gather, nowadays there's people who want something and then they demonstrate and all that. So there's some people who gather like that. Talha and Zubayr, they went to that gathering and they did not have a right to do so. They should have asked permission from the Caliph, and the Caliph would not have, Ali radiallahu anhu would not have given them permission. Because they're gathering as if they're implying that Ali radiallahu anhu is not acting according to the rules of the religion in this matter. And he knew that that's not the case. He knew what they wanted. They wanted power. So somebody, regarding this, somebody told Ali radiallahu anhu, do you think that I will say that Talha and Zubayr is wrong? While Talha and Zubayr, we know their status. Although Ali radiallahu anhu has a higher status than them. But Talha and Zubayr, they're very high status. They're among the greatest of the companions. They're among the 10 best that the Prophet gave the news of paradise. And they had numerous qualities of greatness. They were praised by the Prophet ﷺ and so on. So this man, he said, do you think I'm going to say that they're wrong? As if he was saying, you think I'm going to say that you're right and they're wrong? He was saying, I'm not going to do that. So Ali radiallahu anhu, he replied to him. He said, you are a lost person. He said, Anta rajulun ta'i. Basically saying, you're lost. Is this how you judge? Based on the status? Do you say this is right and this is wrong based on the status of a person? This is not the way. So he showed them how to judge. He told him, you're a lost person. The truth is not measured by people. الدين لا يقاس بالرجال. You don't measure the religion. You say, okay, this person is a very high status. He said that, so therefore it's like that in the religion. No. Or these, the this person is very high status, so that makes it correct in the rules of the religion. No, we don't say it like that. He said, وَلَكِنْ يُقَاسُ الرِّجَالُ بِالدِّينِ. The people are judged according to the religion, no matter who they are. Of course, prophets ﷺ, they're the one who brings the rules. But as far as the people, other than prophets, they're judged according to the religion. The religion is not judged according to them. We don't say, okay, the rules of the religion is such because he did it. No, because every person other than a prophet, it's possible for them to make a mistake. Prophets, they don't make mistakes in the religion. So he taught that man, and he said that very wise and beautiful statement. He said, you are a lost person. The truth is not measured by the people. You measure the people by the truth. Know the truth, and you know its people. Know the truth, and you know its people. Who are the people of truth? Because now you know the truth. So the main thing is knowing the truth, and then you would know who is the people of the truth, who's adhering to the truth. Then you would say these are the people of the truth because they're adhering to the truth that you know already. And as you know, Talha and Zubayr, he loved Talha and Zubayr very much. He regarded them very highly. And he knew that they have a very high status. He knew that the Prophet praised them. And he also knew that they were wrong. And they themselves knew that they were wrong later. And they repented, both of them. Radiyallahu anhum. Radiyallahu anhuma. So if this is the case of Talha and Zubayr, wa alaikum as-salam rahmatullah. This is the case of Talha and Zubayr, the greatest of the awliya of this nation. How about nowadays, who somebody claiming to follow their sheikh, and then they say, my sheikh doesn't make a mistake. I met some people, waliyadhu billah, they're a group claiming to be Sufis, and they're far away from true tasawwuf. They said to my friend, they said to him, and I was there, if I hear a verse of the Quran or a hadith saying one thing, and my sheikh saying something else, I'm going to go according to my sheikh. Look at the ill manners, su'ul adab, that he had with Allah and the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, if I hear a statement, a verse from the Quran or a hadith, I'm not going to go with the verse of the Quran. I'm going to go what my sheikh says. And he was saying, because I don't know the verse of the Quran and the hadith, so the sheikh is going to explain it to me. But that's not how you say it. And he was saying, if my sheikh's statement contradicts it, I'm going to go with my sheikh still. That is wrong. So this is because they didn't understand the saying of Ali radiallahu anhu, where he said, you do not judge the truth by the people, but rather you judge the people by the truth. Know the truth, and you'll know its people. What wise and beautiful statements. Subhanallah, radiallahu anhu. That's why he's amongst the most knowledgeable of all the companions, Ali radiallahu anhu. And despite that, he had a lot of hardships during his time, and he had to fight 3 groups. But the Prophet had already told him that, alayhi salatu wasalam, you're going to fight these 3 groups. So he had told him that, you're right, you're going to fight them. So he was certain that he's correct, because the Prophet had already told him, alayhi salatu wasalam. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam had a lot of mercy towards us, even for the times of our times. And you know, let me go on a side note before we continue. You know that the Mawlid is coming. You know that the Prophet ﷺ was born on the 12th of Rabi'ul Awwal. He was born on a Monday. There's an ijma' of the scholars that he was born on a Monday. And he was asked, why do you fast on Mondays? He said, because I was born on this day. That's why I fast. Teaching his nation that to thank Allah for sending Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam on the day that he's born. He fasted on Monday, he said, because I was born on that day. Because the birth of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, isn't it good for this dunya, for this whole earth? It is. If a blind person cannot see, then no one can make him see. If Allah Ta'ala makes a person blind, then no one can make him a seeing person. So the Prophet ﷺ, yes, he was born on a Monday, and gathering to celebrate his birth is something good. This is bid'ah hasana. What are some examples of an innovation that are good in the religion? Quickly, what are some? The mihrab. What are some other ones? That's a very strong proof right there. The fatha, kasra wa dhamma in Al-Quran. Who is the one who put the fatha, kasra, dhamma in the Quran? And it didn't exist before that. Yahya ibn Ya'mar, who was one of the tabi'in. So he put the fatha, kasra, dhamma, or tabi'in. Let me double check. Either he was a follower or a follower of the follower. He put the fatha, kasra, dhamma at the time of Uthman. The copy that exists today, you can find it on internet. You can find it online. You go look, the copies that Uthman had printed. It's there in the Museum of Turkey and other places. That the copies, you will notice there's no dots on it. There's no dots, there's no shadda, there's no fatha, there's no kasra, and there's no dhamma. We cannot read it even probably. Most of us can't read it. The Arabs were able to read that. So he noticed that people are going to make mistakes reading the Quran. So he put the fatha wa kasra dhamma on it so that people can read it without making mistakes. And is this something good or bad? There is no doubt that this is something good. The Muslims accept that this is good. The copies of the Quran would exist with fatha wa kasra dhamma in every Muslim's home, throughout the East and the West. So how can they say this is in innovation, something new that comes in the religion is all bad? This statement is a misguidance itself. So gathering, is feeding Muslims something good? Yes. So gathering to feed Muslims is good. And that's what you do in the Mawlid. Is gathering to recite the Quran something good? Yes. That's what people gather. They gather to recite the Quran. Is gathering to praise the Prophet ﷺ and sing madih for the Prophet? They did it in front of the Prophet in his lifetime, in his masjid. And when he came from the Hijrah, when he arrived in Medina after performing Hijrah. So they did it in front of the Prophet ﷺ. This is something good. Is gathering to say Salat ala Nabi something good? Yes. Is gathering to say a lesson, reminding the people of who Muhammad is ﷺ, and mentioning his life story is something good? Yes. So what part is it that they don't like? Waliyadhu billah. According to their filthy rules, they say anything that's an innovation is bad, because they misunderstand the hadith, kullu bid'atun dalala. And the scholars, the word kull doesn't mean always, without exception, all. Sometimes it means most. And in that hadith it means most. Because in another hadith he says, the Prophet ﷺ describes two types of bid'ah. Sunnatun hasana wa sunnatun sayyi'ah. This is a good innovation and a bad innovation. So they have no leg to stand on with their statements. The mihrab is a good innovation. What other innovation is good? Salat al-Tarawih. Who is the one who started it? Umar radiallahu anhu. Yes, they come to you and they say, well, Tarawih, did the Prophet prayed it before that? Yes, the Prophet did pray it. One night he was praying in the masjid, the companions prayed behind him. The second night he came out and he prayed in the masjid, the companions prayed behind him. The third night the people gathered, the Prophet didn't come out, alayhi salatu wasalam, to pray with them. And he taught them that this is not an obligation. That's why he didn't come out. And during the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, he ordered in all the masajids that there would be one imam and the people would pray behind them 20 rakas. Tarawih. And then after he saw the imams reciting the Quran, he saw in the masjid, the imam is reciting the Quran, the people are all gathered in deep worship. He saw them. He said, "Ni'mal bid'ati hadhi." Rawah al-Bukhari. He said, what a good innovation this is. So Umar radiallahu anhu called it an innovation. They say, the Wahhabi will say, no, this is not an innovation because it existed before. Well, who knows more about the innovation, you or Umar? And Imam Bukhari narrated that Umar said this is innovation. And we're not talking about the praying. We don't say he innovated the prayer. It's the fact that they gathered in the masjid behind the imam, praying 2 rakahs inside the masjid. That's the part. That's the innovation. And who else innovated it? Our master Uthman. What did he innovate? Quickly. What did Uthman innovate? Didn't he the second adhan? Or actually in the Jumu'ah, and throughout the Muslim world, don't you hear 2 adhans? Yes. The first one, he added it. The second one, right before the khutbah, is what it used to be during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. They used to make 1 adhan and they used to pray. The Muslims started to becoming wider and wider areas, and the people, in order for them to come to one area to pray, they needed more time. So and this is not something that me and you would do it. This is something that the top scholars would do. Like Uthman radiallahu anhu. He said, add a second adhan. And did the Muslims leave his way? Did they say, well, this is a statement of Uthman, we're not going to follow his statement. We're going to stick to what was done at the time of the Prophet. Did they leave it? No. Why? The Prophet ﷺ said, عُدُّوا عَلَيْهَا بِالنَّوَاجِذ. Hold on to their way with your back of your teeth. You know, if you want to hold on, you want to bite on something and you want to bite it and you don't want to let it go, you don't do it with your front teeth, you do it with your back teeth. You get a strong grip. The Prophet ﷺ said, hold on to the way of Khulafa al-Rashidin. As if with holding on to it with your back of your teeth, never letting go. And that's what the Muslims did. The Muslims throughout the different countries, you will see them praying in the Ramadan, they pray Taraweeh. They have the mihrab in the masajids. They have the harakat. But the Uthman, he also added a statement in the adhan. What statement did he add? No. As-salatu khayrun min an-nawm. In the Fajr time, throughout the Muslim lands, what do they say? As-salatu khayrun min an-nawm. In the adhan of Fajr. Prayer is better than sleeping. He added that because some Muslims were not getting up for praying. These are all examples of bid'ah. So this Wahhabi, how dare he say every innovation is a bad innovation? He's saying our master Uthman is the innovator. A mubtadi' according to them. Our master Umar would be mubtadi'. And likewise, the Abu Bakr, he's the one who wrote the first copy of the Quran, which was not done at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Yes, it was written. The Wahhabi will say, yes, it was written. But it was not written as one book. One companion had some verses written, some surahs, another companion had some surahs. They would write it on the jild, on the skin. They would write it in different. Then Abu Bakr Siddiq, in one battle, many people got killed. He thought it would be a good idea, and he talked to the companions, they agreed, and they wrote it down in one copy. During the time of our master Uthman, that they call him Jami al-Quran, the gatherer of the Quran they call him, because he's the one who distributed that copy. He made 5 copies of it and he distributed to different countries. So, and so on and so. Ilm al-Sarf wa Nahu. Sarf wa Nahu didn't exist. Yes, the Arabs used to talk in the proper way, with the rules of Sarf and Nahu. Sarf and Nahu is Arabic grammar. So, who's the one who wrote it? Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali, by the order of Ali radiallahu anhu. The beautiful story. What happened? His daughter, Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali, was on the roof with his daughter. They were looking at the stars. And his daughter said, "Oh my father, ma ajmalu as-sama." Her father answered, "Nujumuha." She asked a question, "What is the beauty of the sky?" And he said, "My daughter, the beauty of the sky is it's stars." So she said, "Oh my father, I wasn't asking a question. I was saying, look at how beautiful the stars are." He said, "Oh my daughter, do not say ma ajmalu sama, ajmalu with a dhamma. Ma ajmalu sama, say ma ajmala sama with a fatha, ma ajmala." When you want to show ta'ajjub, you need to say ma ajmala sama. The Arabs before that, they wouldn't make mistakes like that. Because the Muslims grew, and a lot of non-Arabs became Muslims. For example, in our areas, and they mingled with the Arabs, and you know what the non-Arabs are going to do. When we speak in Arabic, we're going to make all kinds of mistakes. So, the Arabs start becoming weaker in the language. Then when he went and told that story to Ali radiallahu anhu, he was saying, "This is what happened last night." And Ali radiallahu anhu, with his far sight, he said, "Write down the rules." He told them, "Write this, وَأُنْحُ نَحْوَ هَذَا, and take this way." So it became the knowledge of the way, ilm al-nahu. Because of what? Because of what Ali radiallahu anhu said. He told them what to write, وَأُنْحُ نَحْوَ هَذَا, and take this way. Because Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali was a great scholar. He just told him what to do, and then he said, "You do the rest." So Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali wrote it down. And the scholars kept adding to that till you have it called ilm al-sarf wa nahu, till it exists nowadays. When you want to learn Arabic Fusha, you go and you do it. So this didn't exist before. Yes, the Arabic language, it existed. Those rules was just, the Arabs used to just say it without understanding it. But there was nothing called something ilm al-nahu where they wrote it down and mentioning all these rules like that. It didn't exist. They put it down. And the scholar said this is an example of a good innovation. And among the good innovation is to celebrate the Mawlid al-Sharif, the birth of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Without him, what would happen to us? If it was Kisra in our lands, the Persians ruled, Kisra, he would have probably kept his people up to nowadays. And maybe most of our people would not have embraced Islam. In the areas of Asham where the Romans ruled, maybe the Romans wouldn't have accepted them embracing Islam, and the people would have been in that state. Hadn't the companions come and sacrificed their lives, put great effort, this honorable religion wouldn't have reached us. Worshipping idols, waliyadu billah, worshipping fire. That's the area in our land. The center of Majus was there. They kept it in Balkh. The fire going 1,000 years. They kept the fire going. When the Prophet was born, the fire extinguished. Kisra, the ruler of the Persians at that time, when the Prophet was born, 14 of his balconies fell. 14 balconies of his castle fell. And he also had a dream, and he had someone interpret it for him. The person told him, after 14 kings, your kingdom will come to an end. It will never come back. And alhamdulillah, why wouldn't come back? Because this area, this region, became a region for the center of Islam, where Muslims, knowledgeable Muslims, came from these areas. And they're the ones who spread Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim, Abu Hanifa, and so many others, top scholars came from this area. Because the companions went there and they taught the people. Radiallahu anhum. So it is a good thing to celebrate the Mawlid. Okay, Mawlid is not an obligation to celebrate the Mawlid. Like to have a gathering where everybody comes and gathers. This is not an obligation. To thank Allah for sending the Prophet ﷺ, of course, we must do that. But to celebrate in this way is not an obligation. So somebody might tell you, this is not an obligation. Why would I celebrate the Mawlid? Did the companions do it? Did the time of the Prophet they do it? And you would say, no, they didn't do it. But what are they saying? They're saying that you gathering for the Mawlid is something haram. And this is shirk. Some of them, they say that the khinzir, the pig, is better than what the Muslim slaughters in the Mawlid. They say that you deserve punishment in the hereafter by Allah for gathering for the Mawlid. So now it's not a matter of just for us saying, yes, it's not an obligation to celebrate the Mawlid, but it is an obligation to go against a group of people that are misguiding Muslims, something that all scholars have agreed upon. No Ahl Sunnah scholar ever said what they said, that this is shirk, or that this is bid'ah, or this is misguidance, or it takes you away from Ahl Sunnah, or these type of things. Rather, this is something good. This is something that actually it's a big reward, especially because these group of people exist nowadays, and you want to make sure that the Muslims don't stop loving the Prophet ﷺ, don't stop mentioning him, don't stop mentioning his stories, and we name our children Muhammad ﷺ. My name is Muhammad, my father's name is Muhammad, my son's name is Muhammad. We name our family members Muhammad, we mention his stories, and we love him. And where's the bid'ah in that? So loving the Prophet ﷺ, yes, it is a good innovation. It is bid'ah to gather in the way we gather, because it didn't exist at the time of the Prophet. But no problem, because the Prophet said there are two types. Imam Shafi radiallahu anhu said, al-bid'atu bid'atan. There are two types of bid'ah. Likewise, all the top scholars. No scholar said there's only one type and they're all misguidance. Otherwise, the scholars would have already refuted. They don't have one proof from the top scholars. So, going back to our subject, because Mawlid al-Sharif is coming, because these people exist, wherever you are in the world, make sure that you are telling people, gathering for the Mawlid, and if you gather just to feed Muslims, to mention the story of the Prophet, to say Salat ala Nabi, say Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, just for that it would be enough. The author said, so going back to our subject, said, as for the explicit blasphemous statement, waliyadu billah, anyone who says it is judged as a kafir. For example, if one says, I am Allah, then this is blasphemy. If he says that while he's conscious, he says it willingly, he didn't say it at a slip of the tongue. and he knows the meaning of what he's saying. So, if this is the case, and he was not forced with the threat of death to say it. So in this case, he blasphemes. Even if this person is a very pious wali who had lost his senses. Because of a person who lost his senses, and he's no longer accountable. If a person talks and is sleeping, is he held accountable for what he says when he's sleeping? He doesn't know what he's saying. He has no control. So likewise, sometimes some awliya, they go in a state where they lose their senses. And they don't have control over what they say. So, if they have no control of what they say, they're not held accountable for that. So if they say some haram things while they're in a state of losing their senses, if they say blasphemy, or if they said, I am Allah, the scholars said you do not allow them to say that. Even if you have to scream at them or beat them. Just as it would have an effect on them. They will stop it. If you scream at a person, you raise their voice at a person, the person, he will be affected, just like an animal is affected. The animal doesn't have a mind, but if you scream at him, or you hit him, it will do what you want. So the scholar said, even if it's a pious, one of the awliya, his majdoob, his senses is not there. If you hear him saying something like that, stop him. And Zajr bitish. Zajr doesn't mean torture him. It means like raising your voice, or more than that, to get him to stop. So look at our religion. Our religion taught us to follow the truth. Once you know the truth, you follow it. And regardless of who is in front of you, if the person is a king, the person is poor, if the person is very high status or low status, it doesn't matter. If what is being said is against the religion, you stop him. So, who said this about what I just said about the awliya that are there? Some of them, they lose their senses if they say something haram. Who said that? One of the top scholars, his name is Izzuddeen ibn Abdissalaam. He said that. He said because the discipline has an effect even on the one who has lost his senses. So, in brief, if a person says, I am Allah, waliyadu billah, then he blasphemes. This is explicit blasphemy. It does not bear another meaning in the language. So we don't make up a meaning for him. We say, if somebody says that, you don't say, well, he doesn't mean that. He means this other thing by it. Whatever he comes up with, that's not what the language accepts. So that is blasphemy, waliyadu billah. And you would tell that person, say the shahada, come to Islam. If a person has lost his senses, then he's not accountable. But you don't allow him to say that. So, it is not permissible to say ta'wil for that, or to make excuses in this case for him. The scholars of Islam said, if a person was a great wali, who came out of his senses, he was unconscious, not in control of what he says, the words come out of his mouth involuntarily, and he said some words that were blasphemous while he was in that state, then you have to prevent him from saying that. You can prevent him by just as you can prevent certain animals from doing something to get them to do what you want. Likewise, one of the scholars who mentioned this explanation, we said, was Izzuddeen ibn Abdissalaam. He was a very knowledgeable and pious scholar. He came about 800 years ago, or a little bit more. He was from the area of Asham, and he moved to the area of Misr. And he was a very, very courageous man. He was not a, what do you call those people who, mudahin, who compromise. He's not a person who compromised in the matters of the religion, to take money and to give fatwa based on money or based on his desires. He was a person very courageous, very brave. If someone committed a mistake, he did not care if it was the ruler or someone else, or himself. One time he had hired somebody, he had made a mistake, he had hired somebody to go around the town and to go in all the public places. He had hired many people. And they would say, Izzuddeen ibn Abdissalaam gave this, he ordered that person to say, Izzuddeen ibn Abdissalaam said this statement. His statement is wrong. The correct statement is this. He hired a person to go around telling everybody, just in case, he went and corrected it, but maybe somebody listened to him, and he heard him, and he didn't reach that person. So he made sure that everybody heard that statement. So he was a person who adhered to the truth, regardless of who it was. And one time, he would go to him and tell him. One time, a Muslim ruler, we're talking about how many years ago? We said over 800 years ago. At that time, do you know the Islamic Empire, the areas that it controlled? As if you say they controlled the land and the sea. This was their vast area of control. So when the Muslim ruler at that time is not someone like, small little neighborhood. No. We're talking about a big ruler with a lot of power. He told the Muslim ruler, by the way, the Europeans used to gather, if all the countries, European used to gather just to fight one of their armies. So, one time, it was at the time of the Mughals, Genghis Khan. He attacked several Muslim countries, and he came from that areas. They came from the Afghanistan, Iran, and they reached an area of Iraq. And the Muslim ruler wanted to fight. So he wanted to prepare an army to go and fight them. So Izzuddeen ibn Abdissalaam, he heard about that. But the ruler said, I don't have enough money. I'm going to start taking money from the people to prepare for the army. Basically by force. You know how they take. He wanted to tax the people so he can charge them. I forgot to excuse me. Rushing. This my charge is running out of charge. So he wanted to tax the people. So Izzuddeen ibn Abdissalaam, he said, when he heard about that, he went to the ruler and he told him, publicly, he told him in front of him, he said, no, you don't do that. You're not entitled to do that. He said, no, you don't do that. You're not entitled to do that. In front of his face, in front of the people. He said, before you take taxes from the people, look into your belongings. How much do you have? Take out all of your belongings except that what you need. Your basic needs, put it in the Muslim treasury. Not just you. All your powerful people around you, take their money and put it in the Muslim treasury. He was implying that they took the money unrightfully. So he's saying that basically it doesn't belong to you. Put that money back in the Muslim treasury. So he told them that. And he said, first you gather what exceeds their needs. Then let's gather and discuss about gathering money from the people. So actually the ruler did that. He applied what he said. So it was a different era. Those rulers, they went to the scholars sometimes to hear harsh words because they feared Allah. They wanted to implement it. Not all rulers, some of them. At that time they were different. It was a different time. So the ruler did that. He applied what he said. Another time he discovered that the vice ruler was a slave. Now, here in America, a person might hear slave and he thinks, a person with his back bare and he's getting whipped every day. In the Islamic countries, a slave or an ex-slave could reach very high places in government. Don't we know some of the great scholars were ex-slaves? The slave of Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, one of the top scholars of this nation. Yes, he was freed, but he was an ex-slave. So it was a different era. The slaves at that time, they could reach very high places in government. So he had discovered, Izzuddeen ibn Abdissalaam, he discovered that he belonged to the Muslim treasury. This slave was not owned by a particular person. He belonged to the Muslim treasury. And in order for him to have his freedom, there's a certain way that he has to do that. So he said publicly, the vice ruler, wazir, the vice ruler, he is a slave. And do not buy anything from him and do not sell from him, because he cannot buy and sell. Take all his money and put it in the Muslim treasury because he doesn't own anything. So when the vice ruler, he heard that, you could assume the anger that he had. And he went immediately towards his house, carrying a sword, to kill Izzuddeen. When he got to his house, he knocked on the door. Izzuddeen radiallahu anhu, he opened the door. When he opened the door, he looked at him. He suddenly just changed. He dropped his sword and his heart changed. Suddenly he went to him, he kissed his hand. He said, "What are you going to do with me?" MashaAllah. He said, "I'm going to sell you." Okay. Not just you. You, and he named another group. He said, "I'm going to sell all of you." So they came, all of them, he sold them. He took the money because the Muslims need to benefit from them. So he sold them. Then after that, he sold them to certain people. Those people freed them. Then they went back to their positions. So it was a different time, inshallah. Another time, the ruler was going out from his place on the day of Eid with his entourage. Izzuddeen was walking and he saw them. The name of the ruler, his name was Sultan Ayub. When he saw him and his entourage, he said, "Oh Ayub, what are you going to do on the day of judgment when you're asked about the state that you govern, that there's wine being sold in that state? So his first name was Ayub. So he didn't say Sultan, Amir, or any of that. He said, Ayub, oh Ayub. He said, what are you going to do? And the Sultan, he answered, he said, well, I didn't start this. My father did. His father allowed alcohol to be sold in that region. So he said, and then he read him a verse of the Quran. When the Prophet ﷺ called the blasphemers to stop worshipping idols. It's an idol. You make it with your hand. They make an idol with their hand. So then they worship that idol. So who's the one that is being helped? The stone is being formed by this person. Then after they form it, they ask it, they say, "This, you're my creator." And they expect help from that stone. Although in reality the stone can neither help nor harm. It's a stone. Or wood, or whatever they make it from. Or one of them, he had made it from dates. If he got really hungry, he would go and eat it. And they expect help from that thing. In some of their movies, they show an idol, and then if somebody is near the idol, they show things happening around, as if that idol is doing those things. Waliyadhu billah. They worship that. So he read him the verse when the Prophet ﷺ called them to stop worshipping idols. What did the blasphemer say? He said, "We found our fathers doing this. Our ancestors did that. That's why we're doing it." So he was telling him, "Are you going to answer because my father did that? I'm going to do it. You're going to imitate them, just like that?" And let me get something else. So that's Ayub didn't say anything. He was quiet, and he actually listened to him. This is getting messy. So he said, "I will fix it." He passed an order for all those places to be closed. Excuse me. We're having a little mess here. Here you go. So he was a great scholar, very courageous. He learned, he applied what he learned, and he did not fear blame. May Allah reward him greatly. So when we talked about a wali who had lost his senses, a true wali, he's a true wali. He had lost his senses. It does not, if he has not lost his senses, he would never say a statement of blasphemy. This is because a wali is ma'soom min al-kufr. He is protected from kufr. Once he reaches that level, he will never commit kufr. Just as the author said, take into consideration that the wali does not commit kufr. He does not utter blasphemous statements while conscious, except if it was a slip of the tongue. The one who attains the level of a wali becomes protected from kufr, but not protected from sinning. So he's not a prophet. He's not like a prophet. He can make a mistake. He can even commit a sin or even a major sin. it's possible. We, Ahl Sunnah, don't believe that the awliya are ma'soom like prophets. No. They make mistakes. The top of the awliya made mistakes and committed sins. We said Talha and Zubayr, they repented from that. So, we do not believe that awliya can never make a mistake, that they're infallible, clear of mistake. No. They're human beings, and they make mistakes. They can even commit sins. It's possible for them to even commit major sin, but they repent. They repent immediately. They don't insist on sinning, and they die in the state of repentance. So that's the state of awliya. The wali is a person who does all the obligations, refrains from all the sins, and he does from the optional acts. He keeps doing that, and he keeps adhering to that a certain amount of time until he becomes one of those awliya. And once he becomes a wali, once he becomes a beloved to Allah, he will never become an enemy to Allah. That's why Allah protects him from blasphemy. So once he becomes a beloved to Allah, a high status, the one that a beloved means the one whom Allah accepts. So once he becomes in that state, Allah will not change him and make him an enemy. That's why Allah protects him from blasphemy, because this is something that Allah Ta'ala grants. He becomes an acceptable person to Allah, whether he is a male or a female. So there are many proofs in the Quran and the Hadith regarding that. Allah Ta'ala mentioned about them that they never, after they die, لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. So there's, they do not ever fear. No fear comes to them, and no sadness comes to them. So if they had died on blasphemy, then that would definitely come to them. So it's not possible for a wali to become a kafir and die on blasphemy. Once they reach that wilaya, Allah protects them from blasphemy. Not from sins, and not from major sins. It's possible. It's usually their habit that they would not commit any sin. But sometimes it can occur from them. They're not prophets. So, one time Junaid, the leader of the Sufis, rahmatullah alayh, he was asked, does a wali sin? Is it possible for a wali to sin? And he recited the verse of the Quran, وَكَانَ أَمْرُ اللَّهِ قَدْرًا مَقْدُورًا. وَكَانَ أَمْرُ اللَّهِ قَدْرًا مَقْدُورًا. And he meant by that, yes, it is possible for a wali to commit a sin. This is something that Allah had ordained, had willed that this will happen. That the awliya, that they were not going to be protected from sins. What are they protected from? Kufr. Allah Ta'ala, once they reach that wilaya, they will never commit kufr. Allah protects them from that. So, this wali, he doesn't neglect repenting. It is not like an ignorant people think that their shaykh does not commit any mistakes. This is invalid. It is not true. A wali might commit a sin, even enormous sin. One time, our master Umar radiallahu anhu, you know that he went on the minbar, and as he came down from the minbar, a woman told him, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, you're not entitled to do that. And she read the verse of the Quran to Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar radiallahu anhu, who is the greatest of all the awliya after Abu Bakr. He is the greatest of all the companions of all the prophets after Abu Bakr. Not just the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if you look at his status, he's the best companion of all the prophets after Abu Bakr. Both of them. These four companions, Khulafa al-Rashidin, they're better than the companions of other prophets too in status. So this is the status of Umar. And what did he do? After that lady And it was a knowledgeable lady. It was not any woman. It was a knowledgeable woman, very knowledgeable woman, who said, "You're not entitled to do that, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, O the leader of Muslims. You cannot do that." And she read the verse of the Quran to show her evidence. And when Umar heard that, he went back. He get back on the minbar, and he said, "O people, I told you before, just a few minutes ago," he said, "I told you this, and Umar is wrong, and the woman is right. Do whatever you want regarding this thing that he mentioned." So, if this is the case of our master Umar, the greatest of all the awliya, of all the prophets, he himself, he said, "Akhta'a Umar." He said, Umar made a mistake. How are these people saying that their sheikh doesn't make a mistake? No. The top scholar said, if you are living with one of these awliya and you're serving him, and if that wali is teaching you and benefiting you so many ways, and then one day he makes a mistake, the top awliya higher than him said, don't follow him in that mistake. In that mistake, advise him. If he doesn't listen, in that mistake, leave him. Don't follow him in that mistake. So if this is the case, the top of the awliya said that. So if your sheikh, whoever he is, no matter how long his beard is, no matter how big his turban is, how white his clothes are he's wearing, maybe he's a wali and maybe even he's not. If he goes against the rules of the religion, you don't follow him in that. And obviously the person needs to be knowledgeable. How would he know if this goes against the rules of the religion if he's not knowledgeable himself? That's why the true scholars, the true awliya, their students are learned. They don't keep that knowledge to themselves so that everybody comes and kiss their hands so that they have this high place. No. They get their students to be up to their level. Didn't we say Abu Hanifa is a student with his level? He became mujtahid mutlaq. He didn't keep the ilm to himself. He taught it till his students reached his level. Radiallahu anhum. That's the way to do it. You don't take the knowledge and keep it to yourself and not teach it to others so that in that area, in that town, let's say you put hard work, you went out of country, you learned, you came back, and you notice when you come back, there's a lot of ignorance among, and people come and they respect you and honor you. So you don't teach people so that keeps going. So you keep getting money, you keep getting praise, ihtiram, and all of that. That's not the way. The person will be questioned for that. You need to, they said, zakatul ilmi ikhrajuha linnas. You want to give the zakat of ilm, you want to thank Allah for the knowledge that you gave. How do you do it? You teach it to others. You don't keep it to yourself. So, Ash-Shafi radiallahu anhu, one of the top scholars of this nation, he said, I put all my efforts that there will not be mistakes in my books, but there are mistakes. But I don't know which one they are. Because, what is he saying? He's saying, because I'm not a prophet, and I'm going to make mistakes. But, it's not that he knows what he's saying is a mistake. The mujtahid, for example, one mujtahid says it's such. Another one says, no, it's this. So they have a disagreement. Which one of them is right? They're both following the rules of the religion. The religion orders them to make ijtihad, and they did ijtihad. For example, because the people are in need, they make ijtihad, and they help the people, and they make different ijtihads. Which one of them will be right on the Day of Judgment? They will know. Allah will make them know on the Day of Judgment. They will both get reward. But one of them was mistaken. But it's a mistake that he's not going to be questioned for. Actually, he's going to get reward for it. Even a regular judge, if a woman comes to a regular judge and says, my husband divorced me, what is the judge supposed to do? He says, okay, bring me 2 witnesses, trustworthy witnesses. So she says, there was nobody in the room, it was just me and my husband. And the husband is denying it. Can the judge say, okay, because you said it, it's true? He cannot give a judgment like that. In this case, she's the plaintiff. The Prophet ﷺ said, let the one who is the mudda'i, the one who is the plaintiff, let him bring witnesses. This is what the Prophet said. So the judge would ask the woman, do you have witnesses? She said, no. Now she knows that in reality they're divorced because her husband divorced her 3 times when they were alone in the room. And he's denying it. So she would treat him as not her husband because they're not husband and wife. He divorced her 3 times and they were alone and he's denying it. She knows that in reality they're divorced. But he's denying it. Can the judge give a judgment saying that they're no longer husband and wife? No, he cannot. But in reality, he doesn't know the reality. Is he going to be held accountable for that? No, he actually gets reward for that. Because he doesn't know. And the Prophet ordered him to do that. If the one who is coming to you and making a claim, let him bring witnesses. If I come to the judge and I say, you know that car that is with this such and such, that belongs to me. So the judge would say, bring me witnesses. Otherwise, if everybody makes a claim, they will take everybody's property. He would say, oh, his house belongs to me, his $1 million belongs to me, and the judge would say, okay, go ahead. No. So you see, the mujtahids, they give their judgment according to the rules of the religion. They get reward for that. But in reality, there's going to be one wrong and one right. And if it was an example of one or the other, then one of them would be wrong and the other one would be right. And that's what Imam Shafi was saying. I don't know which one it is. But he gets reward for doing that act because he's doing it according to the rules of the religion. So, where did Imam Shafi take his statement from? He took it from the saying, the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما من أحد إلا يؤخذ من قوله ويترك غير رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Which means, everyone sayings, their sayings you can accept some and reject. Or some of their sayings is acceptable and some of their sayings is not acceptable. And that's for everybody. غير رسول الله, except the messenger. A prophet will never make a mistake in the religion. Whatever the prophet says, it's true. The shaitan cannot trick them in this. Whatever they say in the religion is true. So if a prophet would not make a mistake in the religion, he would not say, oh people, do this. And then later say, oops, I was mistaken. No, don't do it like this. No. Whatever they say, they reveal to and they convey that message. And Allah protects them from making mistakes in the religion. Otherwise, there would be no thiqah, there would be no certainty in the rules of the religion if it was possible for them to make a mistake. And we have no doubt about the rules of the religion. So we adhere to it with certainty. And who narrated that hadith? The hadith was narrated by At-Tabarani and it was classified as Sahih by Hafiz al-Iraqi. He classified it as Hasan, which means a strong hadith. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad Taha al-Amin. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وذكرنا ما نسينا وزدنا علما اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا ولمشايخنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات اللهم اجمعنا في الجنة. O Allah, we ask you by the high status of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to admit us to paradise. O Allah, gather us with our loved ones, with our parents and our loved ones. Gather us with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of judgment and in paradise. O Allah, give us the beneficial knowledge and help us implement that knowledge. O Allah, we ask you for forgiveness for us and our parents and our mashayikh. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد طه الأمين وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين. لا إله إلا الله، لا إله إلا الله، لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. May Allah bless all of you guys for listening to Nawal, Kathleen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.